Today I want to talk about a special monster. Rakshasa. Rakshasa. It should be an A. Okay, we're not gonna go here. A Rakshasa is a demon or an unrighteous spirit in Hindu mythology. Rakshasas are called man-eaters. Or cannibals. A female Rakshasa is called a Rakshashi, and a female Rakshasa in a human form is a Manusha Rakshashi. Let's see what else we can find about them. Hey. We'll go here.
Myths are not stories that are untrue. Rather, they are tales that don't fit neatly into the historical record, which serve as a foundation to a culture. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the ruling trinity of the Hindu gods, have just concluded the Satya Yuga, an age of truth and goodness when mankind is most in touch with them. And oh boy, are they tired. And with good reason. It's taken considerable energy to see to the well-being of an entire world for almost 2 million years. This is probably why Brahma, the source of creation itself, falls into a deep slumber. But as he sleeps, his very breath takes form, putting the ultimate bad into bad breath by unintentionally birthing a horde of demons. And once they come to life, the vicious monsters turn on their creator. Awakened by the pain from beasts gnawing and chewing on him, Brahma cries for help. Then it's Vishnu to the rescue, casting the unruly demons out of heaven and sending them hurtling toward the mortal realm and the netherworld. Some of these creatures, now banished to the realm of men, developed a taste for human flesh and blood, while others would become hungry for power. But no matter their meal preference, one thing is certain: the Rakshasa will feed.
Extra.
Thanks so much to Skillshare for helping to support the creativity around our campfire. The legend of the Rakshasa has been with humanity for quite some time. Their earliest depictions describe them as furry behemoths, with red eyes and giant incisors. However, more recent interpretations show them resembling a humanoid cat person, or just a slightly hairy human, but with fearsome teeth. And though their truest forms may resemble animals or demons, many were also adept shapeshifters, who could fly and turn invisible if needed. And if they decided to make a meal of someone, it's said they would draw their victims in close by transforming into someone they knew the human would trust. Now, while some Rakshasa were content messing with people's minds and eating a human every once in a while, others had more grand ambitions, to spawn children with both humans and gods, and steal empires. In fact, one of them even managed to manipulate the gods themselves, Ravana. Many variations of Ravana's tale have been told throughout the ages. Born to a Rakshasi mother and Vishrava, the grandson of the god Brahma, Ravana had many siblings. However, for years, only he and 2 of his brothers, Kumbhakarna and Vibhishana, committed sacrificial rituals involving fire and mantras so that they could receive blessings or boons from their great-grandfather Brahma. Not exactly what you'd be expecting from half-demon children, right? Well, this behavior was encouraged by their maternal Rakshasa grandfather, Sumali, whose agenda would prove to be less about his grandsons paying proper homage to the gods, and more about something a little more sinister. Though it should be noted that asking for these boons was tricky business, and you had to be very specific in your requests. Something Kumbhakarna learned the hard way when the other gods tricked him into requesting the boon of interminable sleep, which resulted to him being fast asleep every day of the year but one. Meanwhile, Vibhishana asked that his boon be that he would never be allowed to stray from the path of righteousness. An interesting wish to say the least, but sure, boon granted. What could go wrong? After witnessing all of that, Ravana knew he had to choose his words and actions carefully. And wanting to set himself apart from his brothers, he performed the most extreme penance by chopping off his own head. But because he was a Rakshasa, that wouldn't kill him. Rather, with every head lost, another 2 grew in its place, until he had 10 heads. Also, at the end of all this exercise, he ended up with 20 arms as well. Very impressed, Brahma would grant Ravana invulnerability for most of his creations. However, there was one small caveat that should be noted, that humans didn't make that list. Little something to think about for later. Next, Ravana approached Shiva, who was meditating on Mount Kailash. But Shiva did not like being interrupted, so he punished Ravana for disturbing him. Now again, versions of said punishment differ based on which telling you here, but one thing is known. Ravana's scream of pain was heard far and wide. In an act of fealty, Ravana presented one of his 10 heads, because hey, he had them to spare at this point, which in the end did earn him a boon. This time, it was an invincible sword. Throughout all of this, Granddaddy Sumali was watching with delight, because he was playing the long game. You see, it had been his idea for his daughter to transform herself into a beautiful woman, to seduce Ravana's father, and birth him a champion. Then he coached his grandson to win boons from the gods, so that he'd become powerful enough to take over the kingdom of Lanka. However, as you'd imagine, Lanka already had a king, Ravana's own half-brother, Kubera, who had taken control of it by defeating Sumali years ago. But now, with a newly raised Rakshasa army, his near invulnerability, and a sacred sword, Ravana avenged his grandfather by defeating Kubera in battle and claiming the throne of Lanka for himself. But no amount of power was enough for Ravana, and after many horrendous acts against the people of Lanka and the gods themselves, he finally committed the deed that would be his undoing. The power-mad Rakshasa decided to kidnap Sita, the wife of a chap named Rama, who was considered the 7th reincarnation of the god Vishnu. As detailed in the Ramayana, Sita had been under guard, but Ravana shapeshifted into the form of a street beggar.
Okay.
Quote, considered by some to be the very embodiment of evil, Rakshasas dominate all they encounter as masterful manipulators, powerful sorcerers, and terrible foes. Greedy, treacherous, immortal beings, Rakshasas delight in plotting the downfall of others while raising their own status. In addition to their own abilities, Rakshasas are charismatic individuals who draw large numbers of minions into their service, surrounding themselves with cadres of deadly and varied servitors. Clever and deceitful by nature, Rakshasas are the bane of righteous creatures, as they prefer hiding in the shadows and using layers of lies, corruption, and double crosses to keep themselves safe.
So, these guys are like, what if there was a little one in a, can we see both ways at the same time? What? I'll put myself on my head. I cut my head off and I have 2 heads. Rakshasas are like the Merovingian. They're like, they write narratives. And I think it might be the fractal. I think the fractal might be Rakshasa. Rakshasa! That's just something I wanted to pose, because I've been thinking about it for a while. Because I'm got a tiger by the tail, too.